Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
A blaster, also called a gun, was a ranged weapon that fired bursts of particle beam energy called blaster bolts emitted from a power pack. The most commonly used weapon in the galaxy, blasters' intense beams consisted of compacted high-energy particles and intense light that could kill or paralyze their target, depending on the setting. Blasters ranged in size and power from compact pistols to large, heavy rifles to starship-mounted blaster cannons. In everyday conversation, the term blaster and laser were often used interchangeably, both referring to particle beam weapons. However, technically, the laser preceded the blaster in design and development. Blasters boasted faster firing cycles, enabling them to achieve higher rates of fire compared to lasers, albeit at the expense of range and accuracy. There was some debate regarding the size classifications of blasters. While they were commonly associated with handheld weapons, starship-mounted blaster cannons also fell under this category.
You are listening to the Star Lores Podcast. I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Are you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder?
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
History. The earliest recorded precursor to what we now call a blaster was wielded by an ancient droid serving an unknown function within the Rakatan Infinite Empire. Remarkably advanced for its time, this weapon surpassed the blasters of 3956 BBY. Following the collapse of the Infinite Empire, the greater galaxy began reverse engineering Rakatan technology, birthing the initial blasters. These early iterations were cumbersome. Heavy artillery amalgamated substantial energy conduits with immense power generators. While potent, they suffered from sluggish firing rates, temperamental behavior, and logistical challenges. As advancements in energy sourcing unfolded, blasters evolved into more compact and practical forms, transitioning from anti-infantry installations to handheld weaponry known as beam tubes. These devices comprised backpack-mounted power generators with connecting hoses to handle focusing tubes, housing all necessary equipment for beam generation within the backpack. Dominating the arsenals of elite infantry, such as Zim the Despots, Duin Arbulon Star Lancers, circa 130 BBY, beam tubes gradually supplanted heat beams and plasma cannons due to their ease of transport and reduced maintenance requirements. In 7811 BBY, pulse wave blasters superseded beam tubes, boasting enhanced beam potency and significantly accelerated rates of fire. The pulse wave weaponry utilized the Waymency Hollow surged to prominence during the Waymency Storm conflict, until the Galactic Republic devised its own pulse wave blasters by reverse engineering the Sif Alulan process. A subsequent breakthrough in blaster technology emerged with the advent of the triple blaster during the early Galactic Republic era. Operating on the principle of coordinating three distinct weapons through a shared targeting system, these systems were often employed in pairs or quartets, unleashing synchronized barrages upon a target. Although triple blasters waned in prevalence by the rise of the Empire, they held sway over pulse wave weaponry during the Great Sith War, circa 4000 BBY, thanks to their superior precision and extended range. Advancements leading up to the Mandalorian Wars heralded with the decline of triple blaster technology, coinciding with the emergence of what is now conventionally recognized as the blaster, a self-contained unit capable of generating bolts independently without supplementary apparatus. From this juncture, blasters matured into a stable technology, remaining operationally consistent from the Clone Wars era through the Galactic Civil War 2 decades later. Development. Blasters swiftly supplanted slug throwers as the primary infantry weapon due to their large ammunition capacity, increased power, and lighter projectiles compared to slugs. Nonetheless, slug throwers retained advantages in specific environments, such as highly humid regions like jungles, where the delicate internal components of blasters could be compromised. Additionally, slug throwers offered easier silencing and lacked the visible bolt characteristic of blasters. During the Clone Wars, an advanced iteration of blaster technology emerged in the form of stealth blasters, epitomized by the DC-19th stealth carbine utilized by the Republic's clone shadow troopers. Equipped with a sound suppressor unit, the DC-19 enabled silent operation, while its alternate stealth firing mode utilized a refined Tibanna gas mixture to render the bolt invisible. However, this invisible Tibanna blend required reloading after every 10 shots, with mandated cooldown intervals between each shot to prevent dampener overheating. An evolution of this concept was seen in the Night Singer sporting blaster rifle. Another advancement during the Galactic Civil War was the Autoblast, designed for the B-Wing starfighter, boasting a heightened rate of fire. However, it did not become widely accessible until post-Battle of Endor. By the rise of the Empire, blasters had become the most prevalent personal weapon across the galaxy, employed not only by military personnel, but also by civilians for self-defense. While particularly common in the Outer Rim territories, small concealed holdout blasters found favor among social elites like Baron Administrator Lando Calrissian. Despite restrictions against blaster use in certain establishments, such as the Cantina on Mos Eisley, enforcement often wavered in minor altercations. Blastech emerged as the leading manufacturer of blasters during the Galactic Civil War, securing contracts with both the Imperial and the Alliance to restore the Republic. In addition to producing the Protector civilian fighter-grade blaster line, Blastech manufactured the E-Type series, including the widely utilized E-11 blaster rifle, employed by stormtroopers and later by factions such as FTS, predominantly through post-war salvage efforts. Gun culture. While attitudes and laws surrounding firearms have varied across planets, times and places overall, blasters did not seem to be highly regulated, with a few exceptional worlds such as Coruscant, or high-risk mining worlds like Paragus II, where a stray blaster bolt could cause a critical explosion. Even in regards to restrictions on youth, children have been known to use and own blasters of their own. From a common slave boy such as Anakin Skywalker, who owned an ion blaster as young as 10, to the princess of a royal and peaceful planet of Alderaan, Leia, who was given a sporting blaster as a teenager. Not to mention the obvious warrior cultures such as Mandalorians, who would receive weapons and training as children. In the wider galaxy, there seem to be few prohibitions on blasters, though some subclassifications such as disruptors were highly scrutinized and illegal, with ownership even carrying a death penalty in most systems. Despite this, many individuals are seen across the myriad of worlds carrying anything from basic sidearms in settings such as towns, cantinas, and settlements, to ship-mounted blaster cannons on civilian vessels. However, many other worlds sought to reticent their use to the military, police, or special interests like bounty hunters. Some individuals, such as Obi-Wan, saw blasters as clumsy and an uncivilized method of combat, preferring to use the use of the lightsaber and close combat. His views were shared by others, particularly the Jedi Order, who saw the blade of the lightsaber as a more fitting weapon of a Jedi for its abilities to attack and defend, and prohibitions on the weapon were not strictly true, with a few Jedi utilizing the weapon regularly or out of desperation, and were suitably competent marksmen, no doubt owing to some force abilities that could influence their perception and accuracy.
So uncivilized.
Guns and ammo. Unlike the outdated laser, which emitted a coherent beam of light, the blaster discharged a concentrated burst of high-energy particles, commonly known as a bolt, renowned for its devastating impact. Creating this bolt required two essential components: a gas cartridge containing energy-rich blaster gas, typically Tibana, and a power pack. When fired, a portion of the gas flowed from the cartridge through the heater valve into the gas conversion enabler chamber, often referred to as the exciter. Within this chamber, the power pack energized the gas before it entered the actuating blaster module, where the highly energized gas transformed into a compact stream of intense energy particles, accompanied by luminous light. This particle stream then underwent focusing through a prismatic crystal or similar apparatus, resulting in the generation of a lethal, high-energy particle beam discharged from the emitter nozzle as a glowing bolt of energy. The bolt's color varied depending on the gas used and the type of focusing mechanism, ranging from red to blue, orange, or white. Firing blasters also resulted in the heating of the gas conversion enabler due to energization by the power pack, which could lead to the blaster overheating and potential destruction. Additionally, a small amount of ozone was emitted as a byproduct when the bolt emerged from the emitter nozzle, giving blaster bolts a distinctive odor described by Han Solo as reminiscent of burnt meat.
Blast, this is why I hate flying.
Types. Blaster pistols. Blaster pistols boasted formidable firepower, packaged in a compact and easily portable design. while typically offering less firepower compared to their rifle or carbine counterparts. They possessed a sufficient potency to neutralize humanoid targets and penetrate body armor, although they lacked the energy required to breach starship hulls. The market featured a plethora of designs from various manufacturers, with Blastech DL-18 blaster pistol standing out as a popular choice. Heftier and more potent variants were categorized as heavy blaster pistols, while smaller precision-focused models included sporting blasters and holdout blasters. Regulations governing ownership and usage were commonplace across many systems, often manifesting in the form of restrictions and guidelines. Pistols served as ubiquitous tools for self-defense, commonly employed as sidearms or backup weapons across various sectors of society. From law enforcement agencies to interstellar traders, blaster pistols found widespread use throughout the galaxy. They were a staple among clone troopers and also featured prominently in the arsenals of soldiers and officers within the Galactic Alliance Defense Force. The Galactic Empire's stormtroopers utilized modified military-grade variants, while the Rebel Alliance equipped all of its blaster pistols with added safety features. While pistols were prevalent, they were not always the primary weapon of choice due to their limited range and comparatively low power. However, exceptions existed, such as the DC-17 hand blaster, which boasted exceptional firepower and firing speed for a sidearm. Scattergun, alternatively termed a scatter blaster, represented an energy-based counterpart to the scattergun, a projectile-firing slug thrower. Operating on a similar principle, scatterguns discharged a fury of blaster bolts, capable of hitting multiple targets simultaneously. There was a common slug version of this weapon as well.
There's one, set for stun. Inform Lord Vader we have a prisoner.
Blaster carbine. A condensed version of the conventional blaster rifle served as a compact alternative, typically wielded by specialists known as carbineers. Distinguished by its abbreviated barrel and streamlined two-handed grip, the blaster carbine resembled an elongated pistol rather than a full-length rifle. These weapons boasted several advantages over their larger counterparts. Their reduced size and weight facilitated maneuverability, particularly in confined spaces, while also affording a faster rate of fire compared to standard blaster rifles. Moreover, carbines were often more cost-effective to manufacture. However, these benefits came at the expense of shorter range, diminished accuracy, and reduced stopping power. Equipped with both a short-range stun setting and an auto-fire mode for spraying multiple shots over a wider area, blaster carbines were priced at 850 credits without a retractable stock, and 900 credits with this accessory, subject to local regulations, of course. Certain models, like the E5 blaster carbine, utilized by B-1 battle droids, featured a retractable stock. Folding the stock enabled one-handed operation akin to a pistol, while extending it provided enhanced stability for a two-handed rifle-like usage. Despite inherent drawbacks, carbines were favored by those seeking simplicity, durability, and ease of use, making them popular among unskilled individuals, frontier settlers, and nomadic groups like the Tusken Raiders. Figures adept in range combat, including Boba Fett with his modified EE-3 carbine rifle, recognized the versatility of these weapons. Rhodian Special Forces in particular, favored the Ingant Zarvel 9118 heavy carbine for its reliability, despite the distinctive sound it emitted when it fired.
And these last points, too accurate for sand people. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise.
Blaster Rifle. A blaster rifle embodied a rifle-shaped variant of blaster weaponry, typically characterized by a longer barrel compared to other blaster types. These heavy-duty blaster variants surpass the firepower of pistols, although heavy weapons still outclass them in terms of power. Most rifles included a stun setting, enabling the temporary incapacitation of opponents. Some featuring a retractable stock and weighing approximately 4.5 kilograms for most models, blaster rifles boasted an effective range of roughly 30 to 60 plus meters. Valued at around 1,000 credits in the legal market, these rifles face prohibitions in many systems for civilian use, leading to a prevalent black market in sales. Often the preferred weapon of soldiers, blaster rifles come in various configurations and were prominently wielded by regular infantry group, serving as a staple infantry armament since predating the formation of the Galactic Republic. Blaster rifles continued in use for centuries following the Battle of Yavin, without any indication of being replaced. Evidence strongly suggested the utilization of blaster technology by Rakatan Infinite Empire, potentially extending their infantry forces in combat scenarios. Repeating blaster. Repeating blasters, also known as repeaters, represented a category of weapons, be they blaster-based or projectile-based, that could discharge multiple rounds within a short time. Typically, they exceeded the size of the DC-15A blaster rifles utilized by clone troopers during the Clone Wars. Various iterations of repeat blasters existed, broadly categorized into two main groups: personal repeating blasters and mounted repeating blasters. The latter were often affixed to tripods for stability and were transportable, while occasionally integrated into vehicles like the T-16 Skyhopper. This application was uncommon. Furthermore, these weapons were further classified based on their weight, falling into categories such as light, medium, and heavy repeating blasters. Primarily utilized as support weaponry, these rapid-fire arms found deployment on tripods or defensive emplacements. Light variants were sometimes carried by troops and were frequently mounted on speeder bikes and land speeders. Notably, these weapons were exclusively issued to military personnel. Light repeating blasters. The light repeating blaster, a scaled-down variant of the standard repeating blaster, was primarily designed for military use under legal restrictions. Among the most prevalent iterations was the T-21 model, favored by Imperial stormtroopers, while similar models saw deployment among heavily armed infantry units across various armies, such as the Royal Naboo Security Forces. Typically, these weapons boasted a power capacity of 30 blasts, despite their increased potency compared to standard blasters. Their rapid rate of fire made it effortless for users to deplete their ammunition quickly. To extend operational duration, a power generator could be linked to the weapon. Personal repeating blasters. These compact repeaters were manageable for individual carry and rapid fire, eliminating the need for a tripod mount. However, their weight posed a challenge for untrained users. The large variants were dubbed heavy repeating blasters. Though this designation was relative to lighter models, all personal weapons paled in comparison to the bulkier emplacement guns. These specialized repeaters found favor among elite military units. Stormtroopers, lieutenants, were more inclined to wield them than their subordinates. During and immediately after the Mandalorian Wars, Mandalorians favored personal repeaters. Canderous Ordo, in particular, was noted for using a prototype heavy repeating blaster that never reached widespread production. A subvariant of this, used amongst clone troopers, the oddly named Z6 rotary blaster cannon, was a multi-barreled repeating blaster that could be shoulder-mounted or carried with two hands and was often called a chain gun. Medium repeating blasters. Medium repeating blasters typically required mounting on a tripod or defensive structure and were manned by a two-person team, packing a considerable punch. These ranged weapons boasted a moderate supply of blaster gas and medium energy power pack. Primarily intended for military use, these blasters were tailored to bolster infantry operations. Imperial forces utilized medium repeating blasters extensively throughout the Galactic Civil War. Early in the conflict, the rebellion resorted to pilfering the designs in a desperate bid for defense. During the defense of their Hoth headquarters, the rebels managed to deploy Mark II medium repeater blasters, showcasing their resourcefulness in adapting captured technology to their cause. Mounted repeating blasters. Mounted repeating blasters, also known as heavy repeating blasters, were blaster-based ranged weapons renowned for their rapid-fire capabilities, typically affixed to robust tripod bases to ensure stability. These formidable arms were designed for stationary deployment. Originally developed to safeguard outposts against invasions, heavy repeating blasters excelled at mowing down advanced infantry units. Despite their immobile nature, these tripod-mounted weapons proved highly effective in defensive roles. During eras such as Clone Wars and Galactic Civil War, the E-Web heavy repeating blaster and its variations emerged as the preeminent choice among repeating blasters. The designation E-Web stemmed from the official nomenclature for any repeating blaster, emplacement weapon, heavy blaster. Heavy repeating blasters. The heavy repeating blasters found primary deployment in bunker emplacements or affixed to combat vehicles, though they were also capable of individual use. Operated solely at a rapid firing rate, these guns typically relied on a power generator for sustained use, offering an infinite stream of shots. Alternatively, they could function with a portable power stack, affording a capacity of 20 shots. However, due to their formidable auto-fire capability, maintaining accuracy with these blasters in personal use was challenging. Mounting them on tripods somewhat mitigated this issue. Reserved exclusively for military use, like their counterparts, heavy repeating blasters were expressly designed to provide infantry support. In history, these formidable weapons were wielded by specialized clone troopers known as ARC troopers with the Grand Army of the Republic. They also saw action in the hands of heavy weapon specialists within the Rebel Alliance Special Forces during the Rebellion era. Notable instances of their use include the Millennium Falcon, which boasted a heavy repeating blaster as a surface defense cannon on its ventral side, and the Galactic Empire's E-522 assassin droid, which integrated a heavy repeating blaster into its formidable arsenal. Blaster cannon. A blaster cannon, known by various monikers such as flash cannon and assault cannon, represented a short-range heavy artillery iteration of the handheld blaster. While commonly installed on atmospheric vehicles, a portable shoulder-fired variant was also employed to wreak havoc on vehicles, troops, and structures. Powered by ionized cryogenic cells stored in power packs, blaster cannons offered a versatility absent in laser cannons, permitting adjustment of damage levels from stun to full power, categorized into light, medium, and heavy variants. They generally wielded less power than laser cannons, but proved highly effective in atmospheric combat, particularly against ground forces and vehicles. Portable blaster cannon variants included the Z6 rotary blaster cannon, BB-23 heavy blaster cannon, and CR-1 blaster cannon. Notable military vehicles integrated blaster cannons, including the Seraph-class urban landspeeder, the military version, by Sarosub Corporation, all-terrain scout transports, Galactic Empire's 74Z speeder bikes, Haor Chal Engineering's C-9979 landing craft, and the TIE Interceptor. Additionally, the Arakid Industries Viper probe droid was equipped with a blaster cannon. Certain large battle droids were constructed with integrated blaster cannons, such as DS-D1 Dwarf Spider Droid, a DS-D Advanced Dwarf Spider Droid, and LM-432 Crab Droid. Portable blaster cannon usage extended to space troopers, with notable proficiency demonstrated by bounty hunter droid IG-88. The YVH series battle droid relied on a variable-powered blaster cannon as its primary armament. Blast Sword. The blast sword, a lengthy metal blade approximately the length of a human man's arm, boasted a meter-long blade. Its exceptional balance enabled adept users to wield it effortlessly with one hand. Adorned with a pommel and a curved metal guard protecting the hand, the blade's wedge commenced a few centimeters above the guard. New Republic pilot Wes Jansen noted the guard's utility for bludgeoning. In contrast to traditional swords designed with sharp tips, the blast sword featured a flared nozzle at its tip, connected to a blaster mechanism. This mechanism, powered by a cell within the hilt, discharged an energy blast upon contact, activated by a switch at the pommel. Activating the blaster produced a humming noise and imbued the tip with glowing energy, leaving behind vibrant trails as it moved. Given its unique design and functionality, wielding the blast sword proficiently necessitated training. The Adumari nobility favored the blast sword for their frequent honor duels, a weapon resembling a conventional sword with one significant distinction: an energy outlet at its tip that emitted a blaster shot upon contact. This feature, along with the light trails it left behind, provided amusement for New Republic pilot Wes Jansen during a diplomatic visit to Adumar. Various versions of the blast sword existed, including a polearm variant used by guards of Kartan's ruler, the Parador. These weapons were deemed suitable for refined gatherings, with Adumari duelists like Cherokee Hanadi often wield them single-handedly while holding a short blade in their offhand. Accessories. Numerous blasters were equipped with attachments and accessories designed to enhance targeting, accuracy, rate of fire, and handling. These additions ranged from targeting lasers and electronic scopes to large power packs. Notably, Delta Squad's DC-17M interchangeable blasters boasted a sniper and anti-armor attachment, offering adaptability in varied combat scenarios. Boba Fett's EE-3 carbine rifle featured a compact scope capable of interfacing with Fett's helmet, enhancing precision during engagements. Jango Fett's dual West Star 34 blaster pistols were reinforced with DeLorean alloy plating, preventing overheating during prolonged use. Additionally, Clone Troopers' DC-15A blasters were engineered to interface seamlessly with their helmets, facilitating coordinated combat operations.
Welcome aboard the Millennial Falcon. This is Christian.
And this is Jordan.
Just wrapping up our tour of Blastech Industries' local manufacturing plant.
The best in blasters.
This is not a paid sponsorship.
Yeah, that corporate video was really getting my juices flowing there. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in here on the HoloNet. I also just wanted to remind y'all, if you like the show, make sure you, first of all, subscribe. Also, we're on YouTube. We are on the YouTubes. I don't talk about YouTube enough. I should. I want to get to 1,000 subs on there, because then we can start running ads once we get 1,000 subs. But there's a whole bunch of other features it unlocks in like your creator thing, so that would be kind of cool too.
And if you make it worth it to us, maybe we'll start uploading video content too.
Yeah.
So. Jordan needs more than just OnlyFans to keep his lights on.
Exactly. I'm not just a Twi'lek dancer girl. Okay. But yeah, so go over to YouTube. It's basically just we don't put that much effort. We just throw the episodes on with a picture, and that's kind of it.
But it's also not that much effort to subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be very
mutually beneficial.
Yeah. Very easy for you to just go sub there. You can also rate and review the show. That helps us get more into more earbuds, as well as, especially on Apple. We got tons on Spotify and keep doing it if you do use Spotify, but definitely you Apple users, give us some ratings and reviews. Also, share the show. If you think someone you know, a group of people you know, fellow nerds will like it, then please share the show with them. If you want to support us, send us some credits our way. We are on patreon.com/starlores. You can support us there for $3 a month, and you get access to all the bonus content. Also, Spotify, you can pay for a subscription on Spotify, $3 USD a month as well, and that'll give you, if you're not interested in signing up on Patreon, if you're already a Spotify user, it's a little less seamless, or a little more seamless, to just subscribe on Spotify. Also, I believe you can do like one-time donations on Patreon as well. Like if you don't want to be a recurring payment, but you just want to send us a little tip, then by all means. Yeah, also any fan fiction, pictures, collections, any of that kind of stuff, send it our way. starlorespodcast@gmail.com. DM us on any of our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Discord. Come and talk to us there, and just let us hear about your cool Star Wars collections, stories, and whatnot. Did I miss anything, Christian?
I think you covered it.
Cool.
Oh, on to blasters. Blastech.
Show us your blasters.
Yeah, show us your... I wonder if we get put on a watch list. The right to bear blasters.
Indeed.
Come in hot with this one. So the Galactic Constitution in Star Wars doesn't have any kind of rights laid out for individuals, it seems.
What are these guys, a bunch of communists?
their Galactic Federation.
Okay.
So it looks like gun laws are pretty different between like regions and planets, but overall, it seems pretty lax gun control in Star Wars, which is an interesting observation considering like the world they live in. We just did an episode on piracy, so obviously like there are swaths of the galaxy that are just not safe to travel without carrying something to defend yourself with. But also even some planets and settlements are very, like, depending on where you are, like Tatooine is very lawless. You have like other frontier planets in the Outer Rim. So with that like Western frontier vibe, which is another inherent Star Wars mix ingredient for the Star Wars mix. Obviously that comes with everyone walking around with their 6-shooters on their hips, right? So people like Han, who is just like a cargo freighter packing a pistol. So it's just an interesting observation when you like see any crowd shots. Usually you'll see a couple guys carrying, which I'm all in favor for.
Yeah, me too. I think it's awesome.
Even peaceful worlds. So like I imagine there's probably some measure of gun control on Naboo. But like Padme's 13, 14. She's pretty young.
Yeah.
And she's walking around rocking a blaster. So yeah. And Anakin, a slave, is given a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder if they would have had a slave revolt if they all thought about using their firearms on their.
It's true. Yeah. It is a weird thing that.
Yeah. It's also interesting just the context of Star Wars written in with a very strong political bias one way that Mr. Lucas would have introduced, and then I guess it fits with the spaghetti Western samurai theme to have everyone walking around with their weapons.
That's kind of what I always thought is, I mean, it's not even something, gun control or regulations isn't something you think about when you're like watching Star Wars, right?
Well, you should.
You are now because we're bringing it up.
And now you'll never not think about it.
Yeah. Now it's always gonna be a little thorn in your side every time you watch a show. It's like, what is the gun control regulation on this?
Well, they make you think about the tax policies, so why not?
It's true. Yeah.
That being said, it does roll right into my next topic is when you have a rebellion that's fighting against an oppressive regime, it's kind of handy to have a bunch of people with a bunch of guns, isn't it?
Yes.
Almost like that was the
to
intention.
overthrow tyranny.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny that.
Funny how that all works out.
Yeah.
So just a comment on the technology around blasters. Lasers are kind of like a underlying technology, but blasters are very much different from how lasers operate, which is just something just as a sci-fi trope. And there are lots of different categories of weapons. Obviously, we're going to get to them in their own episodes. And some kind of overlap with blaster technology, but they're categorized separately. So just kind of wanted to draw attention to that. If we didn't mention your favorite weapon type, that's coming. And things like, and namely disruptors, which do utilize the same kind of technology as blasters. We'll mention those separately, but they kind of operate very similarly. So some people might consider them a type of blaster. They're not officially categorized that way, but once we get to that episode, you'll see how their functionality is very much similar.
There's things like, I don't know. I don't believe we got into it in the script, but like ion cannons and stuff like that.
There's all kinds of different weapon classes and kind of what they do and their specializations, and they just operate very differently. But a lot of common people just think of like, oh, laser guns, Star Wars, space, flashing lights, right? But blaster tech is very different.
And I will say I do appreciate that Lucas in the original trilogy did go more for that revolver pistol feel with blasters instead of like the Star Trek phaser
gun type thing.
Where it's like a continuous stream. And a lot, I believe up to that point, like Lost in Space and stuff and a few others, Battlestar Galactica, they had that's how the weapons all kind of are. It's like this laser firing, and where Lucas kind of deviated a little bit. It was he wanted to make it more like a like a Western, like your character.
Well, actually, his inspiration was from World War II, seeing tracer rounds.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and they. As someone who's fired actual machine guns with tracer rounds, I can tell you it does literally look like lasers. It is the coolest.
Oh really?
Yeah. Coolest thing to see in real life. And that was his inspiration. And he's very much on the money with what that looks like.
Okay, yeah.
So, because again, you have the major ingredients of the Star Wars recipe includes World War II films.
Of course, yeah.
And of course, that Western influence that we were mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
The other thing too about the weapons themselves is the fact that they're built off of real life guns is a very cool thing too. Just modified. They slap on a bunch of doohickeys and stuff on real world weapons or strip them down or whatever. It's kind of a cool thing for people who are gun enthusiasts to see that and be like, oh, that's cool. Like you can ID the gun.
Yeah. What I do like though about a lot of guns in Star Wars, especially when you get like the scoundrel characters and stuff, and many of the villains, you have like a lot of unique guns, a lot of guns that you only see this one person
carry. Yeah, like Boba Fett too.
Yeah. Which I think is like cool, and it's like they're customizing it and stuff. You know, obviously there's like the Stormtrooper blaster rifle.
Yeah, standard issue.
Yeah. But then a lot of these like individual characters, like for me, especially Han Solo or Chewbacca, their blasters are like also part of their identity. It's like part of who they are.
Small caveat on that: bowcasters are not blasters.
Okay, but his weapon is
sure. Yeah, it's a signature. You're talking signature weapons. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
But yeah, like there is something about like it that person isn't that person without this item now.
Yeah.
Like it's been so ingrained in your head.
And people recognize the weapon,
Yeah.
right? When they see it, it's like, oh, that's Han's blaster.
Yeah,
Oh, that's the bowcaster. Oh, that's,
lightsaber, whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that is true.
Yeah.
And it makes sense too. People like to customize their weapons to suit whatever they're using them for.
Yeah.
Like putting scopes on pistols.
Because why not?
Because I can. Yeah.
Fully automatic scope pistol.
The ATF's worst nightmare. We don't even live in the United States, so we can say what we want about it. We live in a far more controlling country.
Yes, unfortunately.
Whose laws have done nothing to prevent crime. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah. And both Christian and I are enjoyers of firearms.
Yes. And occasional users.
Yes.
Recreational only. Just wanted to touch really quickly on blaster bolt colors. Our keen or not so keen observers will notice that they're not all the same color. Some are red, some are green, some are blue, some are yellow. Actually, one thing I will credit Disney with this is they actually did assign more meaning to the colors than historically was done in Legends. So in Legends, it's just kind of like vaguely alluded to that it's like the quality of the gas, and obviously on screen it's simple to identify factions that are shooting at each other. Makes it really simple.
Yeah.
But that being said, it was always like this amorphous cause. It's like the lens and the gas, but that's it. That's all you kind of hear. Yeah. It doesn't really assign a value or quality to any particular color. But Disney actually went out of their way, and they kind of did the same thing with lightsaber crystals, which people have mixed feelings. I kind of like what Disney did with the crystals too, more or less.
Yeah.
But the different colors in Disney Wars do carry different effects. So the clone troopers who fire a blue blaster bolt, they have an ionizing effect, which makes sense if you're fighting battle droids. And ion weapons do have this kind of like electrical blue theme to them. So it's kind of fitting that you would equip your whole army with an ionized blaster bolt. I think there's a thing, I'm not super well versed on the Disney stuff. I think green blaster bolts are a higher quality gas, so they're more efficient, so you can fire more per mag or whatever their power pack. So like it's a lot more fleshed out in Disney canon. Like there's meaning, and I kind of like that, where like your blaster bolt is specialized and it comes out a certain color because it has a certain effect. It's almost like the color tips on different rounds, right?
Yeah.
So
I agree. I appreciate like attention to detail.
yeah.
But it is funny how like a lot of like the lore, even in some of the scripted portion, is like it's like this was all retroactively added later after the.
That's pretty common with Star Wars.
Yeah, it's pretty much all we talk about.
Yeah.
It's the retroactive additions to the.
Yeah, if you didn't see it on screen, it
the
was
lore,
added
yeah.
in a book somewhere
Yeah.
after the fact.
But that's also what makes it cool, right? Like it is like, okay, you can actually create this whole kind of backstory to why blasters are a certain color.
Different colors, yeah.
And lightsabers and whatnot too.
Yeah, same thing. And also just an interesting observation too is that the rebels fire red bolts, which you would think like
Yeah.
red would be bad guys and the stormtroopers would just fire red bolts, but rebels and stormtroopers both fire red bolts.
Yeah.
And
Is it the TIE fighter?
the TIE fighter shoots green and
green.
the X-wings shoot red.
Yes. Yeah.
So again, it's just kind of
Yeah. Whereas like Darth Vader's lightsaber is red, and Luke's is green.
blue or green.
Yeah, blue or green.
Yeah. So yeah, just interesting
Yeah.
observations on colors because I have the mind of a child. Beyond that,
That's all you had, bud?
that's all I had. Yeah.
What was your favorite? What's your favorite blaster
Man,
in
I
Star
forget.
Wars?
Okay, I like clone troopers and I like their weapons, obviously.
Yeah.
And I like that they shoot blue. I think that's very cool.
Yeah.
I think that adds to their aesthetic. So any clone-based DC weapon, because they have the DC rifle, they have the DC carbines, and they have the DC pistols, and they have the clone commando ones. There's a bunch of variants, but they all are very cool. The clone commando ones are cool because they can detach parts off of them and then turn. So they have like their basic assault rifle. I forget what it's called. It's a DC something.
Yeah.
And then they can configure it to a sniper mode, or they can configure the same gun to like a grenade launcher, or I forget what all the modes are from playing the game. But it's just a pretty cool feature to have one gun and then you just kind of change the parts on it to get your functionality out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
But what's yours?
I think I like Boba Fett's carbine.
Yeah.
I think the carbines in general, if I was ever to have like a blaster, I would go with I'd probably go with the carbine, but I like, more lightweight. It seems more practical,
Practical weapon for a practical man.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously like Boba Fett's is also souped up a bit too. So
yeah, he's got the scope as long as the barrel. And got the
bump stock there. The stock.
Bump stocks are illegal in Star Wars. No, the long extended stock on it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That would be mine, but give us yours. So you listeners, what blaster would you wield if you were
if you're in Star Wars?
What would be your go-to? But email that to us or send it to us in a DM. Anyways, I think that's about it. Peace.